That's James's deck dinner for today. It's a veggie burger, red onions, pickles, red bell pepper, orange tomatoes, and Nappa cabbage for a bun, and a mountain of potatoes. I'm going to talk about Alice Darling, Midsomer Murders, Come Away, Anything for Jackson, the Madame Blanc Mysteries, One Lane Bridge, now what? Series 3, Camp Coldbrook, and High Life. And I don't know what exactly James is going to talk about.
I'm going to talk about Hunter S. Thompson,
Oh.
The Great Shark Hunt, and something I reviewed before, but I've been refiling, rearranging, and just moving my books. And I found this, and I read it quite a while back already, so I thought I'd read all or most of it, and it turns out check marks all the way to the end, so went through it all. So these are collected essays and other writings by Hunter S. Thompson, some of them quite good, some of them less good.
Alright, well I guess I better get started. Now, I don't know how this Alice Darling made it to the top of the stack, honestly. I do like Anna Kendrick, so that might have had something to do with it. She did a good job. But, I mean, it's supposed to be a movie about a woman who, she's kind of losing it. She starts pulling her hair out and stuff like that. She's very stressed out because she's an amiable sort of woman. And Anna Kendrick plays the role really well. And
She was stressed, but not like psychologically off. Like she didn't have trichotillomania. It was just stress, right? It's the same way that people can drink a lot of alcohol when they're under stress, and they wouldn't be alcoholics.
yeah. So anyway, I guess that should be pointed out. She was extremely stressed out. And it was due to her relationship. She was in a relationship where her boyfriend, I mean, they're saying he's psychologically abusive towards her. And he does things, he's like, why do you try to hurt me so much? Or why do you, and all this stuff. And it doesn't seem like he's abusive, but she's obviously reacting to a lot of what he's saying in a negative way. Now, as far as I can see with this movie, her friends are aggressive personality types, and they're not good for her either, honestly. They help her start to get out of this relationship. Is she going to stay out of it? She'll probably find somebody else who's pretty similar or something. There's a lot of amiable women. They look for a parent. A lot of people do look for a parent, but a lot of amiable women look for a father figure to tell them what to do a lot of the time. And a lot of the time, you can see it with women who are far shorter than their husbands. Then you go, okay. And a lot of the time, they can see it too. And it's not like they're blind to it. But, I mean, the one woman teaching Anna Kendrick's character how to chop some wood. I don't think that woman chopped any wood in the movie, and maybe not in her life. And that's a lot of aggressive women put themselves in power positions around amiable women. And honestly, I don't think it's good for either. But in this movie, um, the axe is used as a weapon, and whether or not the man is psychologically abusive towards his girlfriend, that aggressive woman broke the law with that axe. Anyway, got top of the stack from me. So, and honestly, that was probably due entirely to Anna Kendrick, because that was a great job acting. She nailed an amiable woman under a lot of stress. That was totally it. Anyway, Midsomer Murders Series 23. 23 they've made it to. I can't believe it. But, you know, there were some good mysteries to follow, and it's just a TV show, whatever. But it was enough fun. I enjoyed watching it. Come Away has Angelina Jolie, Michael Caine in it, and some other people. It's kind of it's a story about before Peter Pan and Alice in Wonderland. There's these characters, and this is what became, or whatever. And it's, I don't know. I think the idea of having a sort of period relationship there with a mixed race couple is interesting, and they seem to be a good loving couple. And then there's the Peter character decides, oh, I'm going to get our family out of our financial problem by stealing Dad's watch and pawning it. Such a bad idea. I mean, you really can't, or at least I can't, like these children. And I guess with the Lost Boys, I had a hard time liking them anyway, honestly, and Peter Pan. But anyway, I guess Alice was okay. But I just honestly expected a lot better from this, and it did not work for me. And I would have put it below these, but I do like Angelina Jolie, all right. And I guess, I don't know, I like the idea of Peter Pan and Alice in Wonderland, so maybe that made it above. I don't know. Anything for Jackson is a Canadian film for sure. It has Murdoch in it, and I never would have imagined that Murdoch would have been in a horror movie, but he pulled it off. He did all right, and I think everyone did all right in this movie. It's just it was genuinely scary. I was scared in many parts. What got it to below these other movies in the stack was, I mean, it's hard to put a horror movie on the top of the stack a lot of the time, which I don't know if that's fair, right? But it's just how it is. It's hard for me to put it. It's hard for anybody to really take. It's like people taking comedy seriously or whatever, and they often don't. But it's hard to get people to laugh genuinely. It's hard to get people genuinely frightened, and they did this. But the whole, like, I don't really find ambidextrous sort of contortionists frightening, and so putting that character in, sure, he had a bag over his head, whatever, so it's, I guess it would have been, presumably he would have committed suicide and been condemned for it or whatever. But I don't know, that honestly, that kind of lost. And the one ghost I understood, the other one, trick or treat, whatever. That one I did not understand at all. So that made it down a bit. And I don't know how that one got above the Madame Blanc Mystery Series 2, but honestly, I just don't like this this actress for a mystery solver. I don't believe her at all for the role, and anyway, the mysteries themselves, yes, they're decent. If you follow along, you can see you have a chance of solving the mystery and stuff like that. So it's not that they're poorly written. It's just that these actors and actresses, if you want to call them actresses, I don't know. I just go with actor for everyone, but whatever. I don't think they're really well cast. I don't really care for them. Anyway, One Lane Bridge Series 3. It must be set in New Zealand. I'm not sure. I didn't catch that, but it was okay. I like the scenery. I like the scenery more than I like the show. Camp Coldbrook was quite scary. And for anybody who likes those ghost hunters sort of shows with I had a friend who, she was really into that, the ghost hunter stuff with the camera. Oh, I'm so scared, whatever. And I never got into that stuff. But if you're into that sort of thing, you will like this movie. It kind of plays on that, and or off the whatever, and the movie was all right. It's just, I don't know. I guess I never really got into those ghost hunter things, so that didn't rate very high. High Life was the low point of my movie watching week or whatever this was. I expected way better. Juliette Binoche, I expect a lot from her, and as much as she was beautiful, she's always beautiful, I don't know how. She must be a vampire to keep being so beautiful as she is. But anyway, the movie, wow, it was boring. And there were things in it I just didn't understand. Honestly, it was so badly written. It didn't make sense. I couldn't understand the point of it. It's just bad. And there's a lot of things that, like little details that didn't make sense too in the whole thing. I was watching this thing thinking, okay, well, there's going to be a twist at the end where we find out, oh, they're actually not in space and da 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 da. No twist. It's not worth watching. You're not going to get any twist. Nothing at the end to try to save this movie. It's just bad. So you can go ahead and talk about your stuff.
Truth in Advertising. I'm short 26 pages, but I'm pretty sure I will finish up the review today. 26 out of, roughly 700 pages. So that's about 1/28 of it. And I'm going to go through it and further Truth in Advertising. Much of the stuff, if not all of it, I've read before. I used to read Rolling Stone fairly zealously. I wouldn't call it religiously back in the day. And I believe this was published in 79 or maybe 80. 1979, lo and behold. So it was around that time when I largely gave up on, well, at least buying Rolling Stone. I never subscribed. Probably should have. Would have saved some money. Instead, I'd just buy it over the counter, off the rack, whatever. So I'll review 10th anniversary edition of Songs of the Doom. So Gonzo Papers, Volume 3. This is the Gonzo Papers Volume Great Shark Hunt, which is actually a title borrowed from one of his maybe the longer articles in here. And Songs of the Dude, I suspect, is published in the 90s. Let's see. 1990. Now, as I was mentioning the other day when I reviewed my other copy of it, which I got as free as a bird, and it was all beaten up and stuff like that. Got it at the little library. This one I would have paid. The Salvation Army type places. Bibles for missions type, not so much Bibles for missions, but MCC type of presses, Mennonite Central Committee, something like that. Maybe $1, probably more like half $1, 50 cents. I think this is the one that had the rum diaries in it. It's got the Kennedy assassination. I suspect that that's the, as I recall, it was the Robert Kennedy assassination. Just check to make sure. No, it's Dallas. It's just a note about it from 1990 about Kennedy getting killed in Dallas. So, are these worth the price? I wouldn't pay money for these. Are they worth the effort? I don't know. There's too much journalism. He's supposed to be a journalist, and I don't read him as a journalist. I do read his stuff, the stuff that you'd call journalism, but I don't really appreciate it terribly much. The guy, I'm afraid, thought he was a profound thinker. He at least did kind of learn from his experiences. So he was a big, huge, shall we say, huge supporter of George McGovern back in the day, until George McGovern in 1972, to borrow a phrase from Hunter S. Thompson, might have borrowed it from someone else, got beaten by Richard Nixon like a gong. And to a large extent, that was McGovern's fault. I mean, he just, once he started campaigning for president, the self-destructive guy who had a record for his vice presidential candidate, had a record of more than once getting electroshock therapy, and shouldn't be a bar to most jobs, but it indicates maybe a person isn't as stable as they should be, to be, as they say, one heartbeat away from the presidency. So, let's say McGovern had won in 1972. Eagleton, that was the person he picked initially for his vice presidential candidate. Eagleton is made the president of the United States, and the Soviets start threatening nuclear war over Cuba or over Vietnam, some other hotspot in the world. And Eagleton is supposed to be able to handle that kind of pressure. So, like if it's a job that doesn't require that much, it doesn't subject a person to that much pressure, then a person shouldn't be barred or blocked from having that job if they've got the qualifications. I don't know. Like if a person has a mental block about the pressure of surgery and they want to become a brain surgeon, I just don't know whether they should. Well, I do know they shouldn't get the job. You don't want them to go on the fritz when they've got a person on the operating table. So But Hunter S. Thompson kind of turned on George McGovern. He was a big supporter, but right after the election, he talks about how bad McGovern campaigned for the president, how badly. Then Hunter S. Thompson, and not too long after, about 4 years after, he supported James Carter for President of the United States. And he was one of the first, as he so loudly trumpets, to start supporting Carter, maybe as early as 1974. Heard one speech that he thought highly of. Well, guess what? Presidents shouldn't be paid. He almost said aren't paid to make speeches, but George Bush Jr., I think largely was that. He wasn't making the decisions, no matter how much he might have said. He was the decider, to use his own term, for it, or for himself. So Hunter S. Thompson, go back to him, supported Jimmy Carter. He did a speech on the law, the judiciary, something like that, in 1974. A lot of people were down on the law and so on and so forth. So it was kind of the thing to do. I mean, that's the year the law forced Richard Nixon to resign to avoid getting impeached successfully. Not just impeached, but impeached successfully. So a lot of people were down on the law. I don't know if Jimmy Carter was saying much in that speech, and there is the text of his speech, apparently the full text of that speech. That is a pretty good speech, I gotta say. But, talk is cheap. What do you do when you actually get in the cat's bird seat? What do you do, Jimmy Carter, still alive? What did you do when you got in there, sitting in the president's seat, throne, as it were? Well, what you did, Jimmy Carter, you were saying you weren't how much time.
That guy's got to be dead.
Oh, Jimmy? No, he's getting really old. I think
you probably can't.
Okay. So he was saying, I think, to Hunter S. Thompson or someone, I think he was basically saying he would announce his foreign policy in his inaugural speech. Say what? You should campaign on your foreign policy, just like you should campaign on your economic plans. If you're president, if you're running for anything that has a national kind of focus, the head of a federal government, Prime Minister, Cabinet, President of the United States, etc., etc., in a democracy, you kind of should run on your foreign policy, at least to a certain extent. What he said, I guess he was proud of it, I'll announce what my foreign policy is going to be in the inaugural speech, and he did. He said his focus was going to be on human rights. I've talked about this before. That's interesting. Because you see, what he did was he was yapping the yap, talking the talk about human rights with everyone. But you see, he walked the walk with his allies. Most significantly, people in Nicaragua and people in the Shah, in particular, in Iran. And he had no means of enforcing human rights on their opponents, on the Sandinistas, on the Tudeh party, and the fundamentalists in Iran. And what he did was he lost both of those countries as allies. I'm not saying to the democratic side of things. We're not going to pretend the Shah was a paragon of virtue. And I'm not going to pretend the Somocistas were paragons of virtue either. I'm going to tell you something. I know this is a secret to you, nifty, shifty lefties, all 1.5 of you that are watching right now. Somocistas were better than the Sandinistas in the long run. And the Shah was way better than the Ayatollah. Way better. I shouldn't have to tell you that, but unfortunately, I don't know if you guys have realized that. Now, so that's what Jimmy Carter did. And what he did with the Shah, for example, is he made all sorts of noises about demanding him behaving in a more, shall we say, civilized manner, respecting people's civil rights and all that sort of stuff. And Zbigniew Brzezinski, his foreign affairs advisor, Secretary of State, I think it's called in the United States, said, what? You will look, not just in Iran, but in the Muslim world, as though you are pulling the rug out from underneath the Shah if you do that, if you make these demands. Jimmy Carter, he knew better than the person that he appointed to be a specialist on foreign affairs. So what are Jimmy Carter's qualifications? He's a peanut farmer. It gets better, and not really worse than that, an engineer, and I don't think that highly of engineers, and a nuclear physicist. It depends on what sort of kind of nuclear physicist he was. If he was the theoretical kind, I doubt it. Seeing that he was an engineer, I'd just be amused. But the other kind, I'd be semi-impressed. I don't know what level he reached, bachelor, master's. I don't think it was a PhD. But none of those really qualified him to be an expert on foreign affairs. He should have listened to Zbigniew, and I probably mispronounced it, Brzezinski. He should have listened to him. Because what happened? I got hold of this book this is a while back, well after the Iranian Revolution of 79, early 79. And it was written by Muslims. It was edited by Muslims, and it had every person contributing had a Muslim name. I don't know if they were Muslims, strictly speaking. When I say edited by Muslims, people who came from a Muslim background. They could easily have all been secularists for all that. But what every one of these contributors were saying was, hey, Carter's pulling the rug out from underneath the Shah, just like Zbigniew Brzezinski said. Another example, having to do with Iran, of the way Jimmy Carter operated was the attempt to rescue the hostages that the Iranians took soon after they took power. I should say the fundamentalists, the Ayatollahists. And Jimmy Carter, the CIA probably, along with the military, got together this plan to rescue the hostages. And these kind of plans are really tough when you're going to hostile territory. It was tough for Obama's crew to take out Osama bin Laden. Involved a lot of logistics and all that sort of